Hi, third graders. The Google Meet would not record, so here's just a quick overview of what we talked about. Today, we talked about the inventions of ancient Egypt. And one of the main inventions of ancient Egypt was writing. Now, they weren't the first ones to invent writing, and a lot of other civilizations did independently of this one, but some of theirs is some of the most famous. They use those hieroglyphics. But not only did they use those hieroglyphics, which I'll show you on the next page, they used also hieratic writing, which was more for every day. So if you look here, the one on the left is the hieroglyphics. These are the ones you kind of typically think of about ancient Egypt. But they actually only use these kind of writings on their pyramids and tombs and monuments and like coffins and those kind of places. For their everyday writing, they took those hieroglyphs and they made them into something a little faster and easier, and that was our hieratic writing. So here, this one you can see the one here in the middle is the hieroglyph, and the one on top of it is a hieratic. So you can see it's similar to, but it's just a lot faster way of writing, because you wouldn't want to draw out those pictures for everything that you wanted to write about. That wouldn't have been very fun. They are also very famous for papyrus. They're the first to have something that is similar to paper as we know today. So while we use trees, we just use regular trees. That's where paper comes from. They use the papyrus plant, and they were able to make that plant into the paper that you kind of see. They were also one of the first. They did a lot of stuff with farming, and the ox-drawn plough is something that they kind of did. Being able to hook up those animals to a plough, be able to dig into the earth like that, that is something that they started doing. They also created a shadoof. If you remember from the video last week, a shadoof is kind of, if you remember back to first grade, it's a lever. And so they had that huge ball at the end, and they were able to put the pail in the water, bring it up, and it was a lot easier than lifting up heavy, heavy pails of water. Along with that, they made a lot of irrigation. They were some of the first people to use irrigation systems where they took that river and they were able to dig places around the river so that the water would flow through their farmlands and then back down to the river so that their crops would get water more consistently. They didn't have to totally wait for that flood to happen every year. They used these things called obelisks to tell time. So these tall, tall spires are obelisks. And you can see there in that one picture, they're casting shadows. So throughout the day, where those shadows were, you can tell what kind of time of day it was. So they use those shadows to help them figure out time. Kind of like a sundial. We'll talk about sundials later. They also used makeup. So they use makeup for a lot of things for protection from the sun, but they also did a lot of eye makeup. Both men and women wore eye makeup, and they thought it could cure eye diseases. They also wore wigs. Most of them shaved their heads. In ancient Egypt, it was cooler, then they didn't have to worry about lice. But it was also a status thing. If you wore a wig, you had the money to buy that wig. And then there was toothpaste. Ancient Egypt was one of the first civilizations, and they found the recipes for toothpaste that used a toothpaste to help clean their teeth. So these are some of the inventions from ancient Egypt. Your job today is to go on, and actually you're going to do the travel. In your Schoology folder, you're going to work on the travel section for today. How did they travel back in ancient Egypt?